Hello, my good people. It's yet another Saturday whereby we are still discussing about food poisoning. And before I start every video, I always start by appreciating you guys for being part of my family. I always appreciate for the subscriptions, the likes, and the comments you are giving me. And for those who are bringing out their topics so that we may discuss, I always appreciate everything, and I hope I always give you what you expect or what you deserve. And this has been my promise since I started this channel. As I have said before, we are still discussing about food poisoning. So, thank you for the subscriptions, thank you for the likes, thank you for the comments, and let's continue sharing so that our videos may reach as many people as possible. And if you subscribe, make sure you put the notification bell on so that whenever I produce any video, YouTube will automatically notify you and you will never be left behind. You will be getting notifications for each and every of our content. So let's get back to our discussion, whereby we are still talking about food poisoning, which has been one of the longest topic we have ever discussed since we started this channel. So there is a question I'm posing to you, that is food poisoning contagious? Is food poisoning contagious, or can it spread fast? So food poisoning, also called foodborne illness, is caused by eating or drinking contaminated food or drinks, and symptoms vary but can include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal cramps, and some people may develop fever. I hope you are aware of this because we have been talking about this repeatedly, about contaminated water, about contaminated food. This is not the first time you are getting to hear about this word. So, food poisoning, also called foodborne illness, is caused by eating or drinking contaminated food or drinks, and symptoms vary but can include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal cramps. Some people may develop fever, and symptoms can develop within hours or days of eating contaminated food. Food poisoning that is caused by certain bacteria, or viruses, all parasites, is contagious. So that answers our question that food poisoning can be contagious. So food poisoning that is caused by certain bacteria, viruses, or parasites is contagious. This type of food poisoning is not considered to be an infection, so it's not contagious and doesn't spread from one person to another. I want to repeat this point. In our previous point, we have said that food poisoning can be contagious, but this point contradicts our first statement. So, food poisoning that is caused by certain, not all bacteria. So that means some bacteria, viruses, and parasites can cause contagious food poisoning, but others can cause non-contagious food poisoning. So food poisoning that is caused by bacteria, by certain bacteria, viruses, or parasites is contagious. This type of food poisoning is not considered to be an infection, so it's not contagious and doesn't spread from one person to another. Contagious means an infection can spread fast from one person to another. So this one doesn't spread from one person to another, so it's not contagious. Certain bacteria, certain viruses, certain parasites. Not all bacteria, not all parasites, not all viruses. So, what are the types of food poisoning? There are over 250 different types of illnesses. Most of these are caused by one of the following. One of the following. Number one, bacteria. And let's check a bit about bacteria, which we have discussed fully in our previous videos. Bacteria, which are tiny organisms. Bacteria are tiny organisms. They can get into the gastrointestinal tract through contaminated food and bring symptoms like nausea, diarrhea, and abdominal pains. Bacteria can contaminate food in a number of ways. So, how can bacteria contaminate your food? Number one, you may purchase food that has already spoiled or contaminated. You can purchase food that is spoiled or contaminated. That is number one. Number two, your food may become contaminated at some point during storage or preparation. When you are preparing or cooking your food, you can contaminate it. And when you are storing or during storage of your food, you can also contaminate it. So it's always important to observe all the necessary steps we have been talking about concerning contamination, and make sure your food is handled and stored in an hygienic way. So if you are so hygienic, it's hard to get food poisoning. So this can happen if you don't wash your hands before preparing or handling food. So food poisoning can occur if you don't wash your hands or you don't handle food in a clean or hygienic way. So it can also happen when food comes into contact with surface that has been contaminated with bacteria. Let's say, for example, you are having food poisoning and you are diarrheaing or vomiting, and your hands come into contact with the vomiters or the diarrhea. Then you use your hand to touch the surface, whereby you always chop your vegetables or your meat. So that can make that food absorb that bacteria and spread it to your entire system. So it can also happen when food comes into contact with surface contaminated with bacteria. Another point, improper storage or of food, such as keeping food at room temperature or outdoors for long, can also cause bacteria to grow and multiply rapidly. Improper storage of food, such as keeping food at room temperature or outdoors for a long time, can also cause bacteria to grow and multiply rapidly. If food should be refrigerated, you must refrigerate. And if food has to be refrigerated or put in a freezer and you don't do it, obviously the food will get contaminated and will be harmful to your body. So it's important to refrigerate or freeze food that has been left after cooking. Don't eat food that has been left sitting out for long. This is a very important point. It's important to refrigerate or freeze food after cooking. Don't eat food that has been left sitting out for long, because it will be obvious contaminated. Bacteria and parasites are all over. And a point to note, contaminated food may taste and smell normal. So the food might be contaminated and may taste and smell normal, so it will be hard for you to differentiate between contaminated and uncontaminated food. This marks the end of our first video today, and let's meet in the next video.